Hello and welcome, and this is my new Bustersword. Obviously it's based on the original Bustersword, not the Crisis Core version, as you can see. So anyway, yeah, I'll talk you through it. Basically, it's a wooden L-shaped frame made from pine wood. You can't see it obviously underneath here, but it's two strips of 44mm by 44mm. Sort of screwed and glued together, and then the back, all down along here, as you can see, that's again pine wood, but that's 44mm by, I think it's something like 15mm. So it's a lot more thinner, and it makes it a lot more lighter, because last time round I used 44 by 44 down along the blade, and it's quite heavy, and I had to sort of honeycomb it and drill holes in it to make it lighter. So this time round I don't have to, and it's made it a hell of a lot lighter. So that's that. I angled the end of the blade as such, and obviously the beginning of the blade here with the 44 by 44 wood parts, by using I sort of like cutted it first and everything with a bandsaw at college, and then I used this orbital disc sander to obviously sand all down nice and smooth, and it's all pointing angle. But if obviously you haven't got a college or anything, you can just use a handsaw, do it, and then just get like an electric sander and try and sand it down. So it shouldn't be too much trouble. So that's that part. For the inside of the body of a blade, I used white foam card because it's cheap, easy, and cut it into the same shape as the blade of blade. Place them periodically inside. Reason being is it just gives the body a bit of sturdiness, so you push down on it and don't hazard go through, obviously, because it's hollow inside. And again, last time round I used a bit of wood sort of periodically inside, and you know, it was just little squares and everything, but yeah, again, heavy, and this way it keeps it lighter down. For the actual body itself, I used 5mm black foam card, funny enough, as you can see. The reason being I used the black foam card is because, unlike the white foam card, it's not a glossy, plasticky surface, it's like a paper card. So it just means you can paint straight over it. Which, yeah, saves you a lot of hassle from paper macheing. And again, also with that is, if you paper mache, you won't ever get a complete smooth surface. So this way you get a nice finish after you painted it and it's all done. But what I also done is, for when I decided to cut the cracks in, I backed the inside of here, underneath the blade, with, again, the same white foam card, just so if I accidentally popped through or cut in, it wouldn't, you know, show through and everything. And also it kind of just supports all these areas here, because obviously this is like pretty much a separate piece now. When I drew the cracks on, I drew them on in silver pen, and so this way you can see what you're doing, where you're cutting and everything. But what I done was when I was cutting it, I kept as close to the actual line as possible, because I didn't want to get it too thick. And also I cut it at angles like that when cutting in along. So basically, it just keeps a nice, tight, sort of crack line inside. Can't really see it because of the shading, shadow and everything. But yeah, so that's that and everything. This is micro tape I used here. I used about 2 rolls, I believe. You can get it from your chemist for a couple of quid each. Reason being I use this is it's really sticky, obviously because it's meant to be used for sticking bandages on. And also it's a fabric, so you can just paint over it, straight over it again, don't have to worry about paper macheing or anything, so it saves you a hell of a lot of time. Not sure you can see here, but before I put the micro tape on, all along the blade edge I basically used thin bits of gaffer tape. Reason being is obviously because this part of the blade's pulled over, like the sort of frame and side and the card bits and everything, it's quite tight and taut. So basically this way it stops it from wanting to pop open. And also I've noticed with the previous Bustersword I made, as I've been to a few conventions, has got a bit worn and torn and everything. It's sort of all the tape along the edge here is cracked and torn and everything, and obviously so you can sort of just see these little black holes and everything, obviously because the rest of the sword is hollow. And trying to repair it's just a pain in the arse because it never quite looks as good, and obviously you can see the repairs in certain bits of light. So hopefully this time around I won't have to do that. So yeah, that's the body of the blade. Now for material slots, plastic plumbing attachments, lifesavers, and they make things so much easier and add so much more detail. Now these parts here aren't the same ones I used last time because they've stopped making them that way now. They make them completely differently, which kind of threw me through a loop initially. So again, I had to get creative using these new ones. So anyway, what these bits are, I believe they are called ABS solvent waste access plugs. Now you can get them from B&Q and everything, as I did and everything. But basically, originally what they look like is that and that. So basically that part gets glued into the access pipe and that part just screws on top. But what I'd done with these is I got rid of the sealant ring and then I cut out all in here using a flathead drill bit, also equivalent of, and obviously sanded it all down and everything, filed it down, and then screwed it on back to front on the top. But just left it just so a couple of millimeters kind of come out there, just so basically it gives it a bit more detail. Because that's, you know, cosplay is all about detail, and as much as I do like the original Bustersword design, because it's classic and iconic, and if you see it you'd know exactly what it is. But obviously they redone it for the Crisis Core game and Advent Children movie and gave it a huge gold hilt and everything like that, and yet for when they put Cloud in Dissidia, obviously they gave him the original version of the Bustersword, but yeah, it didn't really have particularly all much detail in it, which I thought was a bit of a shame. So hence why obviously he done cracks and stuff in it and had these parts jutting out of there, because it just gives it something a bit more to sort of look at and a bit more sort of builds up relief and small detail. So yeah, so anyway, what's done that is I cut these back parts off because obviously it's always a bit too deep and everything. As you can see, it takes up pretty much the whole blade, and obviously you've got to get 4 of these suckers in, so hard to do, but to be careful because I almost cut my finger off when sawing it in half. So yeah, then to connect them inside, I use toilet roll, ye old faithful, always there, everyone got it, it's fine, it's easy. So yeah, just like double-sided sticky tape it in there and then duct tape the back of it. Obviously you can't see because it's inside the blade, just so these parts stay together, and I was attaching both sides of the body, so it's all flush all the way through, as you can see. And now for the hilt. For the hilts, I just basically used pine wood, and what I'd done was, for these parts either side of the hilt, I took the measurements from this part of the blade to obviously the tip there. The reason being is for when I put a rest on the back, it as you can see, it kind of comes over and goes on there, that part there, now through there. Reason being is for when I put the beading on, this bit here, it covers up the join mark, because otherwise you would have a horrid line going all the way down there and there and on the other side, and it'd be a bastard to paint over and sand down and get completely flat, and no matter what you do it will always show. So this way it hides it, so obviously the only time you can see it really is just there, so it doesn't detract from the overall feel of the detail. As I said, this is just beading. Debate whether having it the flat side I have on out here and everything, but I decided to have it the other way around because it just curves the edge off, gives it a bit more detail and everything, and also it kind of boxes this area off. So for the bolts and everything, which I've made out of milliput, which I'll get back to in a second, basically it kind of brings them out a bit more and kind of gives this part more depth. So yeah, that's that. So anyway, the bolts are just made out of milliput. what I done was I drew around a 2p piece on some thin card, cut it out, and obviously just mix up some of the part and put it over on these little bits of card, leave them to dry for 24 hours, and then just sanded them down a bit to get them a bit more smoother around the edges, and these are just basically super glued on. Now under here, obviously it was all hollow because the angle of the blade and the wood. So what I done was I put some foam card, sort of cut in a similar shape and everything, and wedged it and glued it in there. And then so it's a nice flat, smooth finish, because obviously it was a little bit sort of bobbly in some parts. I just got some thin card and just cut it down and glued it on. And then I'd done the same, obviously, with the backing underneath here, because it was all rough, and I think she had like the wood there, then you had the layer of the foam card, and then obviously the layers of these bits of pine wood and everything, and it looked hideous. So yeah, it's covered up with card and glued on. And now this part is, I haven't actually probably stuck it on yet, because this is going to be the second to last part that goes on, because it's got to go on after I've put all the pleather onto the handle and everything, because otherwise it'd be a pain in the arse trying to get all the pleather under here when you can't. So this part goes on second to last again, and the last bit will be an end cap, which I haven't got yet, but we'll go on there and just obviously cover that up. But yeah, this is a 32mm waist reducer, if I remember correctly. And what I've done, if I can get it off the blue tack, is I drilled a pilot hole into it, and then I used a countersink drill bit. And basically what it does is it bores that hole into it. So basically when you put a screw into it, it's got something to sink into, so you won't have a screw head just sticking out horridly. So what I might do is, after obviously I've done all that and put this on and everything, is might put some milliput over it after I've screwed it on, sand it down a little bit, and then paint it, and so it will be all nice and flush and you won't notice it, because I want to try and keep screws out and nails out of it as much as possible, just so it doesn't affect the overall look and detail of the sword. So yeah, so that's pretty much my Bustersword so far. Yeah, so after I've finished painting it, I'll upload a new video. So yeah, enjoy.